Hello. What you are about to listen to is a compilation of... Hello. What you're about to listen to is a compilation of alternative commentaries for a variety of wrestling matches, 5 to be exact, that myself and Pat Mullin did between May of 2018 and September of 2018. They are Bart Gunn versus the Godfather for the Brawl For All. Then there's the WOSW, Finlay versus Black Prince, Steve Prince. Then we have a championship match between the One Man Gang and Jim Duggan in the UWF, which took place December 20th, 1986. We move on to Super Tape 3, 1991. That's Earthquake versus Tugboat, the guys that become the Natural Disasters. And then finally, we end this with the NWA World Champion in Mid-South Wrestling, Ric Flair versus Ted DiBiase, and then I believe Dick Murdoch attacks DiBiase after the match. It took place November 15th, 1985. So, like I said, these were 5 different kind of mini alternative commentaries that we did. And I finally put them together for this one little mixtape for you for re-airing. Hope you enjoy it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a TV Party Tonight Extra wrestling commentaries. This is a new thing that we're doing. It's come out of our Remembering Bruno Sammartino podcast that we did. If you'll recall, myself, Mark Radulich, and my good friend Pat Mullin commentated over a Bruno Sammartino Superstar Billy Graham match. And, you know, we both caught the bug for wanting to do more of these. You know, way back in the day, we actually used to do UFC pay-per-view commentaries, but I don't have 18 hours anymore to sit and commentate over those things. So we're going to dial it back a little bit, and we're going to start bringing you some individual match commentaries. This is the first one that we're doing, and we thought we'd start right off the beaten path. But first, let me introduce my commentator co-host. Ladies and gentlemen, he's the punchy pugilist, totally 80s, Pat Mullin. How do you do, sir?
Good evening, Mark. Good evening, listeners. I am excited for this. This is a fun thing we haven't gotten to really try out yet in such a professional manner. We really have our game on for this one. We've done some watch-alongs. We've done some live commentaries. But this is one where we really are on the same page. We're seeing everything at the same time. It's beautiful. We can speak to you. We're all listening at the same rate. We're going to have some fun with this. We hope you do, too.
All right, very well said. So, as I said, we're going to go off the beaten path here with our first match. I don't know if people listening may remember the WWE experimented with Tough Man contests, as brought to you by Swerve, Mr. One Vince Russo. They called it the Brawl For All, and it was really a cockamamie way to get Dr. Death Steve Williams over, and unfortunately Dr. Death got knocked the fuck out during the Brawl For All, so it kind of all went to hell. But along the way, we had some unexpectedly fun nonsense matches in the Brawl For All, and this is going to be one of them. This is 3 rounds of just haymakers and hallelujahs. This is Bart Gunn versus the Godfather. So get ready for this, folks. It's going to be a barn burner, as Jim Ross would say. Right, Pat?
It'll be a good old-fashioned slobber knocker featuring a guy who, if nothing else, is going to be famous for his involvement in this more so than anything else in Bart Gunn. And it's funny because when this concept was talked about, a lot of people talked about what a bad idea it was within the WWE internally because of it. And once the participants were announced, everybody was kind of wondering who was going to take who. And Bart wasn't one of the favorites other than to maybe 1 or 2 people. One of those people was Terry Funk. When they announced the tournament and everything, Terry Funk looked at who was in it, and he just sat there kind of minding his own business and goes, "That cowboy Gunn is going to win the whole damn thing."
Someday Bruce Pritchard's going to retire from podcasting, and I hope they just hire you to replace him. Still call it Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard, but you'll just be playing the part of Bruce Pritchard, because you can do all of his imitations.
I'm okay, but I can't, you know, like you, if it's me and you play the Conrad role, Mark, I can't you can't say anything about your lovely wife, who I happen to like, because then I have to just come out and say, she's a whore.
The one thing about Melissa, and I can't blame her for this, she probably doesn't want to be called a whore on a regular basis. All right. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and hit play. We are using the watchtogether.com website, and this broadcasts a variety of different videos from a variety of different sources to both of our terminals. So that's kind of why we're starting to do this. We're like, wow, we found this website. It was brought to me by Jesse Starcher, and we're like, oh, this is going to be fun. Let's do more of it. So here we go. All right, so we begin with a moments ago, it looked like Ken Shamrock was getting in the face of Sergeant Slaughter. We see the Brawl For All logo coming up, and out walks, and he's ready for battle, the Godfather with his hose. You know, I'm so used to watching like UFC fights that it seems strange that he looks like he's just walking out in like regular workout clothes, and he doesn't have advertisements or Reebok all over him.
No, the closest he's got is the Nike swoosh on the shorts, and he's got his 3 ladies of the night with him. 3 ladies, in between them, they're in 3 yards worth of clothing. Oh, the Attitude Era.
We miss you so. On the phone, the president. Oh, boy. That is a lot of cleavage. My goodness.
And here comes that cowboy.
You would think that in producing the segment, someone would have told them, wear different color clothing. Don't both be wearing plain black. Jesus Christ.
No, at least the Godfather kind of has, you know, he's wearing, you know, just a tank top with some kind of, looks like a tattoo shop logo on it. And we're seeing last night's episode of Sunday Night Heat, which they tried to make an angle before a real fight happens between the Godfather and Bart. And Godfather's on the mic and making an offer that if you haven't watched the Attitude Era at all and you're not familiar with it, Godfather is a pimp. And Godfather oftentimes would offer one of his or more of his, depending on the opponent, ladies of the night in exchange for not having to fight. Well, Bart's kind of an 80s B-movie hero in this, in that he doesn't say much, he looks real good, and he's dressed in very plain clothing, but he's going to fight the fight.
Yes, he is. I have to say, going into this is in the wake of the new Midnight Express. You know, his career has been on just a downswing, and going into it, I'm sure people thought he was cannon fodder on the way to getting Steve Williams over, and he walked in this thing with a real chip on his shoulder because he knew how talented he was. I mean, not talented enough to get knocked the fuck out by Butterbean, but that's a whole other story.
And we get the tail of the tape to make it official. Significant advantages would be Godfather is 60 pounds heavier, 2 inches taller, and has a 3-inch reach, and we're off and running.
Mm-hmm. All right. The Godfather started off with not a bad jab, but he immediately just kind of lost it and started throwing hooks and whatnot. Bart Gunn goes for a single leg. I was trying to teach Jonas this the other day, how to go for takedowns, which is, slight disadvantage. I'm a 300-pound man at 5'9", and he's not.
And Godfather, he was at least before fatigue set in a little bit, because these guys aren't used to having to actually fight. But Godfather was keeping his right hand up, glued to his chin, because Bart had been making his left hand a little bit notorious in this tournament. But he's starting to connect now because... and Godfather's firing back too. Godfather's got a karate background.
Godfather scored one on the chin there, really shook Bart up a bit, but he took it. The problem was Bart really lost all of his form. He's just throwing arm punches really early on, and the thing of it is, he's got some technique. He just chose not to use it in that first round.
No, it's one of those things where, and you'll see highlights here where he kind of gets the clubber in a little bit.
Right.
And Godfather, you talked about the good jab he pointed out there, and he did land a good right hand at the end of the round that kind of stung Bart, and there's a replay of it again. A lot of times it's funny how if a guy isn't used to getting hit, they kind of react a little funny, and they're going to give round one to the Godfather, or to Bart Gunn, excuse me. Points are 5-0 because Bart landed the most punches in a round, according to them, which is worth 5 points.
He's going to go for a double this time, and that's a nice sprawl by the Godfather, the old dick in the dirt.
Yeah, Godfather is using that height and reach to keep out of the grappling range there, so Bart can't take him down and get a quick 10 points, or 5 points, excuse me. But Bart's now got him against the ropes. He ran out of real estate, and now we're seeing some haymakers being thrown. But the Godfather has him cornered. He turned, backs Bart up, and now he's going to work.
That was a nice spin in the corner there. He turned out of the corner, pushed Bart right in. I think Bart's also winded. I don't think he's got quite the boxing breathing down, which is weird for a guy who used to do tough man competitions. But
we see the mouths open and breathing. Godfather doing a little bit of holding and hitting in the corner, which is not illegal, but Bart landed a big left, and now he's just hammering away with the left hand, and we have Roadhouse.
Yes, here we go. Roadhouse. Yeah. Oh!
And a left hand!
Knocks down the Godfather.
At the bell, put down on the seat of his pants, and he gets up on some very unsteady legs.
He's got spaghetti legs there. He's starting to wonder what he got himself into. But yeah, I mean, this is where you start to see how much conditioning and breathing play a pivotal role in boxing. Because when you can't breathe, you can't keep your arms up, you can't keep your form, and you allow yourself to get hit by just somebody winging punches at your face.
And these guys are very big, meaty, and muscular. They have much more meat on the bicep area and the tricep area, which, when you get to going, those arms are big and nice, but they get harder to hold up. And based on the knockdown, which is worth 10 points, and most punches landed, which is worth 5, even though I don't think he landed more punches, Bart is now unofficially ahead 20-0 on the scorecards. Basically, and we're in the last round, Godfather's going to need a knockout here.
And it's not going to come easy. Well, of course, we know how this ends, but whoa!
And then, right.
Good night, Gracie. The Godfather is down for the count, and Vince McMahon has thrown his headset.
Despite the angle to set up an injured Bart the night before, Bart Gunn with the two-piece, a winging left hand that got him a little bit behind the ear and not flush, but he made sure to come back with a big right hook, and to sleep went the Godfather.
Oh, that was right on the jaw, Pat. I mean, it doesn't... Oh, Jesus Christ.
The whiplash on the neck, and face down.
Yeah, you actually saw... That was almost cartoonish. You actually saw the jaw kind of just move from side to side from the impact. A very impressive win by one Bart Gunn. And I'm sure the Godfather went into this going, you know what? I'm sure I'll be able to hold my own against this guy. I'll be all right. And he got his ass handed to him.
Here's perhaps the best part is Bart going over and having a little conversation with one Jim Ross, who it is well established and known that Jim Ross was heavily banking on one Dr. Death Steve Williams in this tournament to go ahead and win. And when Bart pretty much put him to sleep and his WWF career to sleep, Jim Ross was not too happy about it, and Bart kind of driving the point home there that it wasn't a fluke that he beat Dr. Death.
Well, Bart's going to go on to win this whole thing and then get knocked out and summarily fired. He
knocks out another one of Jim Ross's boys in Bradshaw.
And then I said WrestleMania 15, I don't think he lasted an entire round with Butterbean before he got flattened. I was there live for that.
I was not there live, but I was watching it with, to this day, still my best friend. And that was one of the ones where we were like, I wonder if Bart has a legitimate chance, because if he tries to take him down, he probably can. And instead, people had Bart believing that he was a boxer, and he got destroyed real quick.
Yeah, you could actually see Bart Gunn's soul rising as his body lay flat and dead.
Yeah, no knock on Bart. I don't think anybody in this tournament who would have gone in and tried to box with Butterbean would have come out any better than Bart did.
Agreed. All right, Pat, that was fun. I think we're going to call it an evening, but we'll, as I said to Pat, anytime he has a burning desire and some time on his hands, we'll go ahead and put these up like we do with the Metal Hammer of Doom extras. Pat, you want to plug anything real quick?
What do I got going on? Well, I don't have too much going on other than the stuff I usually do with Mark and the 411 Ground and Pound radio show every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. However, I will let everyone know that as of today, Chris Evans our Chris Evans, has pretty much finished building his new studio. We have some content lined up. The Casual Heroes are returning, folks.
It's very exciting. They'll be a part of two different podcast networks. The Radulich and Broadcasting and the Casual Heroes. Your time will be split. You'll be a wanted man.
Why should anything change?
All right, Pat, thank you for doing this with me tonight. Like I said, we'll do these with a little bit more regularity. We have just decades and decades of matches to pour through. There's so much on the internet for us to take a look at and enjoy talking about. So we'll do this again soon. So for the Punchy Pugilist, Totally 80s Pat Mullin, I'm your mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified Mr. Mark Radulich. This has been a TV Party Tonight Extra. Bart Gunn versus the Godfather Brawl For All. Be well, be safe, and behave. Hello, folks, and welcome to a TV Party Tonight Extra. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And joining me tonight is the Punchy Pugilist, Totally 80s, Pat Mullin. How you doing, Pat?
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another TV Party Watch-Along. This is another fun project that Mark brainstormed and was kind enough to invite me on and gave me kind of an open invitation, so I had a hankering for one tonight. We're going to record for you and hope you enjoy it.
This is kind of like the hardcore title of the 90s. It can be defended at any time, 24 hours a day. So I just got done recording a podcast, and Pat snuck up behind me, hit me with a steel chair, got the 1, 2, 3, and said, all right, we're going to do things my way, punk. So what are we going to watch tonight, Pat? What's on the menu?
Tonight's an interesting one that I think would be cool for a lot of people to see. We're going to watch something from World of Sport Wrestling, which was the British wrestling show that aired for years and years on ITV in England and all over the United Kingdom. And we've got a, not necessarily young, but a younger than we're used to, David Finlay in his real prime against a very, very poor fellow, and we'll learn why that guy has a really rough time in a little while, named Black Prince, who is a British karate man.
Oh, well, this is going to be fun. All right, the video is about 20 minutes long. This is a bit of an introduction here, so we're going to get right into this. And here we go. Wrestling Ramblings, and there's a British flag on fire. That's racist. Okay, so it says Independent Television presents. Oh Lord, that is a large man, sir.
That is Big Daddy, one of the longtime favorites of British wrestling fans.
Did you say Big Fatty?
Big Daddy.
Big Daddy. Oh, you know what? I actually just heard about him on the Bruce Pritchard show.
Yes, and we're seeing a lot of the highlights of regulars like Mark Rollerball Rocco and Johnny Saint, and a lot of the British regulars. And then there's even some Americans mixed in there at a time to really hype up the show. We get some Davey Boy and Dynamite.
Big Daddy's
behind. And there's Loch Ness, the other big, fat, untalented man.
All right. So you said this is from the 80s, right?
This is from the early 80s, and we get Princess Paula, who was actually the valet and then wife of Dave Finlay, with him. And you can see he's a little bit different than what we're used to seeing him as. He's dressed kind of almost like an Irish pirate.
Yeah, that's some hat he's got there.
And
a very spangly robe. He's got some Irish tights on him. He actually looks like a blackjack mulligan.
Yes, he does. Have you ever watched the British wrestling system, Mark?
No, this is my first exposure to any kind of British wrestling outside of the tournament that they ran on NXT.
Okay, so this is going to be a little bit different, where they have a round system in place. And the way you can win is to win via submission, knockout, or to score in the case of this fight, which is 8 rounds, 3 falls.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting.
And there we see the Black Prince from Dartmouth, England, with his samurai sword, katana, if you will.
David Finlay looks in much better shape here. I mean, he really... He got kind of round in the belly in the years that we knew him, even in WCW. That's not to say he didn't kick ass, because he did. And Fit Finlay versus Steven Regal is still one of my favorite matches ever. But yeah, here he said he looks like he's a much different guy, much better shape, and these are some great mustaches, I must say. With great mustache comes great responsibility.
It was a time when Tom Selleck ruled the world, and we all wanted to be a little bit more like Magnum P.I. And there's Finlay with Princess Paula from Belfast, Northern Ireland. Finlay has a rep as being one of the toughest guys, one of the guys you really didn't want to mess with or challenge or try or get mad. This match is going to be a really good illustration as to why that was talked about so much.
I fear for the karate guy. I feel like this is going to go bad for him.
This one was actually referenced by William Regal on the Steve Austin podcast about early musings of him and Fit Finlay and his early, dealings with him. And he said, this match really made him afraid to have to work with Fit.
I don't think Fit's known for being a bully, though. I mean, Fit...
Good.
I mean, he trained the women, and the women have always talked kindly about him. People have have said that he's a great worker and all these other things. So, like, when you hear about bullies, you hear about Bob Holly or what's his face, Bradshaw. Like, I've never heard Fit Finlay necessarily described as a bully or somebody who, like maybe like a Scott Steiner who is so stiff in the ring you may end up dead by the time it's over.
Not a bully, but not a particularly even-tempered guy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you gave him an indication that you were not working with him, then he was going to do some things that might make you want to change your attitude.
So here we have a handful of arm locks and reversals, both of them. Oof. So Fit Finlay did a reversal of a reversal here. Oof. I cannot believe how slow this is.
He cross-faced him pretty viciously, and then he picked him up for a fireman's carry and set him on the turnbuckles and just backhanded him, which I don't think Black Prince was expecting. But little things like what Fit just did, it's really, really not anything spectacular, but it's really vicious when he does it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think when he's making contact and he's actually doing his thing, he looks pretty snug. That fireman's carry, though, Pat, was not great. I mean, it was, Jim Cornette talks about don't make it look like you're cooperating. If he had gone any slow, it looked like me picking up one of my children. I don't really want to hurt him or anything, so I got to go extra slow to make sure that I'm taking care of him. That fireman's carry was very slow.
Yeah, I think we're gonna. I don't know if that was maybe necessarily Black Prince not realizing that was what was called, and you see Finlay kind of test him a little bit by jerking his head back with his legs and a head scissors, and he just
Jesus, dude, that was not a body slam. That was a toss.
Yeah, and that was a pretty solid elbow right there into the collarbone.
Tell you what, man, that karate guy really hit the ropes hard, Steve Prince. He hit the ropes like a champ. And it looks like we're going for a Boston Crab, the Walls of Jericho, if you will, for all you kids.
And he's sitting down on that.
Yeah, he is. That's old school right there. That's straight up. That's the Iron Sheik, baby.
I think Black Prince should be very happy he is into karate because he appeared very flexible.
Yes. Oh, jeez. And a kick to the face for good measure.
And Finlay's not really listening to the referee. He doesn't really want him involved here. This is now Finlay fun time. And we get a wrist lock and Black Prince with an arm wringer that doesn't look too convincing. Now Finlay's showing off a little bit of athleticism with a nice back bridge and a kick up. Not something you'd have ever expected him to do if you'd only seen him in WCW. And just faces him off at the end of the round.
It's interesting to see it broken up like this with the rounds as you described before.
Yeah, the rounds are something that might take a little getting used to if you've never seen it. There was an American promotion that tried this in the mid-'90s, an independent called the AWF that used to run a syndicated show.
I vaguely remember this.
Yeah, and it was based out of Chicago, but it didn't really take.
No, first of all, I think the rounds really kill the momentum of the match. This isn't boxing, or MMA where you got to get cleaned up, because you got blood everywhere or whatever, whatever the issues are. Where breaking up the momentum can be tolerated. With professional wrestling, I don't see how the rounds help at all. So we have Fit Finlay with the foot on the back and the arms pulled back.
Yeah, that's a European surfboard, and now into a double arm chicken wing.
Are we going to see a suplex here?
Nope. No, he's going to go straight up into the old Bob Backlund crossface chicken wing and step on the back of the calf to get him down. That hurts.
Yeah, I was going to say this guy's not having a good time with Fit Finlay. No.
Look at the angle he's bending the arm back at in the chicken wing. That's pretty nasty.
Yeah, that looked pretty snug. See, that looked real, and that's the thing. Like some of what we've seen Fit Finlay do here looks like it really hurts. Like this looks believable.
Yeah, well, there's a good reason for that. It's because it is. Like Finlay, the thing that's so cool about watching some of his stuff from this era, and even in the U.S., is that so much. Like, look at this exchange right here. It's effortless the way he's controlling this guy, but with little simple techniques, and he's just mangling him. Literally a hand on the chin with a quarter Nelson, and just is ripping this guy's head off his shoulders.
Yeah, now he's got a single leg takedown, and he's still got he's still working the body part. He's still working that leg.
Yeah, and Black Prince is trying to kick him off in the face. I don't think that's a good idea.
Mm.
No, it's not, because he's just going to go ahead and kick him in the leg now and wrench him.
And he's got a single leg crab here,
while sitting on his head. And this is like he's not. This isn't just him sitting with a holding position. He's pretty well bending it back and has that knee contorted.
You don't see as much psychology like this anymore.
No, he's
really working those legs. He's working the back of the knees, working those joints, and he keeps at it. There's one move after another, just working that same body part.
And Black Prince is finally getting something going here. He got a little bit of momentum with a chop and a shove and an Irish whip and tried to pin him, and that didn't work out. He didn't even get a count.
No.
And he just gotten launched into the corner there.
Well, it wouldn't be particularly believable that a guy that looks as slight as he does would be able to put enough weight on a guy as built as Fit Finlay without doing more damage to him.
Yeah.
Realistically, he would need to knock the wind out of him.
And taken quite the drubbing for the last few minutes, where his cornerman now is coming into the ring to assist him back at the end of the round. What you're seeing Finlay do is kind of alternate between, okay, I'm going to work with this guy a little bit, and then, no, I don't like what he's doing. He's going to hurt now.
That'd be an interesting conversation to have been a fly on the wall for after this match is over, back in the locker room.
And this is that British style, that Wigan style of really hard-nosed grappling, and when a guy is not doing what you want him to do, make him do it. And just alternating it with hitting people very, very hard in certain spots, as Black Prince is now feinting round kicks.
So I'm assuming a lot of this is called in the ring. I can't imagine they discussed too much of it beforehand.
No, it's really not much choreography. That's why it obviously does move at a slower pace than what you're used to. And it is much more based around grappling as opposed to a high spot oriented style that we would see certain British guys start to employ, like Mark Rocco, Dynamite Kid, and a nice little overhead judo throw to the Karate Man.
Now he's going to work the arm. And a lot of pressure there with the feet on the head and the armpit. Very uncomfortable for the Karate Man.
And little things. Look at how he's manipulating the wrist position. That hurts.
You should also, viewers of this, should also pay special note that when he was on his back, he was careful not to lay his shoulders down. He really stayed on the small of his back. He made sure he kept his shoulders off the mat. Very smart. Because obviously in wrestling you don't want to be on your back fully. That's a count.
And Black Prince just went for a drop to hold. Finlay was not having that and dives into a low single leg and steps on the shoulder and takes the arm back. Now,
Yeah, that was a much more controlled body slam.
Okay, that was a little bit lighter.
Yeah, 'cause he really gave him a toss before. That was not safe. That was not taking care of your opponent.
And neither was that.
That was a fuck you to the face.
Yeah, that was exactly what it was. Oh, and that was... See, Black Prince went up for that, and Finlay immediately took advantage of that and used that momentum to really slam him into the canvas.
Yeah, he drove him good. He drove him hard.
He tried the flying headbutt to the body, and Finlay just caught him by the neck and turned him around. And he's got a very vicious chin lock on right now with really simple hand positioning.
Yeah, he's putting pressure on the back of the neck with the one hand, with the one arm.
This is stuff that, like, it's very, very simple, but if you do this to somebody and you get them in position and you can wrench that really fast, they will give up. Oh, now he's having fun.
We have knees to a grounded opponent.
And then just push soccer kicks to the face. And Black Prince is mad now. Uh-oh. The Karate Man looks like he wants to box a little bit.
Right, but he's standing straight up. Like, his stance is all wrong.
Well, he may not actually know karate. I hate to say it. It may actually just be a gimmick as the round ends. There was another very famous British karate gimmick called Kendo Nagasaki, and that's not to be confused with a Japanese wrestler who used the same name in North America, who was Hiro Sakurada, who helped train Bret Hart, actually. But this Kendo Nagasaki in England was very different. It was an Englishman who wore a full-on mask and carried a kendo stick and did the whole bit.
Do you have any idea what took Finlay so long to come to the States and get on one of the big two TVs? Because it would seem like he would have fit well in the WWE back in the Hogan 80s.
Well, there were a few guys from England that were there at the time. Obviously, the big two were Davey and Dynamite. You had Les Thornton, who was a lesser-known junior heavyweight wrestler who eventually got used more so than anything to do jobs. A lot of it is that the guys in North America, they didn't really think that guys from England could work the style that would get over in the States because of how different they were. And there's a judo throw by Finlay with some mustard on it. And they didn't, not only that, but a lot of these guys, because of their backgrounds as legitimate tough guys, they didn't necessarily want guys there who were going to go into business for themselves and maybe do some damage to their star power.
Right. Well, that makes sense.
Black Prince just tried to sandbag a suplex, and Finlay still got him up and just threw him down.
I think he definitely would have fit well in when it was around, like, the UWF. Like, if Bill Watts had gotten a hold of him, I think he'd have done well in that territory.
I think Bill Watts would have loved to get a hold of a Finlay to just have people just screaming and begging for mercy at his whim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He doesn't seem like he'd lose a bar fight.
I mean, Finlay himself, there's a great documentary about him and his family called The Fit Finlays. And it's all about their history in Irish wrestling, how Fit's dad was involved in all these things, and the start of his son, David, who's now in New Japan. And Fitz scoops up Black Prince and...
Backbreaker. And puts him right down. See, now, interestingly, he doesn't go for a pin there. Yeah, he's kind of just toying with him like a cat and a mouse.
And now we're going to get another Boston Crab, and he's not being quite so vicious on this one. I think he's giving Black Prince the opportunity to just kind of mail it in for the day. He's even sat up a little bit, and Black Prince is going to try to push his way out of it. And Fitz working with him. He's cooperating, okay. And now he just pulls him back down and says, okay, that's enough of this. But it's part of that is that British style that guys either were afraid of or didn't really necessarily know how to mesh with.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call this a work shoot, but, you know, this is definitely one of those deals where, you know, Bruce Pritchard's talked about this. Some of the guys in the ring, you know, Dynamite Kid being one of them, but many others as well, were, you know, more modern take, Jericho and Chris Benoit, These are the guys that are just like, look, as long as you can take it, give it to me as hard as you can. Make it look stiff. And now, now we have Shinsuke Nakamura and AJ Styles kind of doing that strong style, stiff, snug work.
Yeah, and the guys, the British guys in particular at this time really had a reputation for just being able to tie you in knots, and the guys coming from the American style really didn't know how to deal with it. And the start of the round, Black Prince can't even stand, so Finlay done kicked him in the face.
I was going to say, I think we're done here.
And Fitz just begging him to get up to have some more, and there's a European uppercut.
Now, is this supposed to be a job match? Or, was this a featured match? What was the context here?
Normally, the matches on ITV were feature matches. Mm-hmm. And Black Prince has some fight left in him. You would get maybe 1 or 2 job matches and 1 or 2 feature matches on an episode of World of Sport Wrestling. And Black Prince was a guy who they thought had some potential with the karate gimmick. And now Fitz scoops him. And as he has used for most... Oh, no, I thought he was going to tombstone him. No, he just really power slams him very hard. And Black Prince is in agony.
Yeah, Black Prince is having some difficulties.
And your winner via knockout is Fit Finlay.
That was interesting, Pat. That if you didn't have any context of what wrestling was and you showed somebody this, you could convince them this was pretty real.
You brought up the point of the round system, kind of breaking momentum for storytelling, which is true. But the goal of that also is to present it as an athletic contest.
And you know what? You're absolutely right about that. I was going to say, I think the upside of having the round system is that this added to the realism. It wasn't a gymnastics affair.
No, and it was very, very heavy on the grappling as opposed to a lot of punches and kicks. When there was a strike landed, it was usually a forearm or an elbow, and it was pretty snug and laid in, so it's not like it wasn't going to leave a mark.
So if you want to check that out, it's YouTube video WOSW-Fit Finlay versus Black Prince, parentheses, Steve Prince, unparentheses. Go ahead and check that out. I'll put that in the description for the show. Pat, you got anything else you want to share, plug, talk about?
Well, of course, we'll be recording tomorrow, which is, for you folks, Thursday evening. We will be recording an actual episode of TV Party, not a watch-along, and we will be talking about the YouTube Red original series, Cobra Kai.
Oh, the best new TV show I've seen in a long, long time. It was it was something I was interested in, but I didn't want to have to pay for YouTube Red. But every time I turned around, there was a guy coming up to me going, "Have you seen Cobra Kai yet? You need to." So I binge watched it on Saturday, and I fell in love with this show, and I can't wait to talk about it. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be totally 80s Pat Mullin, the disapproving dad, Jesse Starcher, and from our Canadian office, Hong Kong Phooey, Andrew Graham. So I hope you'll all tune in for that. And so for Pat, thank you for joining me on this watch-along, this little TV Party Tonight Extra. We'll see you then. Be well, be safe, and behave. Happy 4th of July, Independence Day, everyone. This is TV Party Tonight Extra. I'm your host, the Mandated Reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And joining me tonight for our holiday watch-along to celebrate America independence, ladies and gentlemen, the punchy pugilist, totally 80s Pat Mullin. How do you do, sir?
America.
Goddamn right. All right. Pat, I messaged you earlier and I said we need to celebrate our Independence Day the right way. And since I've already watched the actual Independence Day movie, I said, all right, the second option is to look at a match. And who's the most American wrestler you can think of? And what kind of match do you have in store for us tonight?
I wanted to celebrate a real patriot, a guy who represents the best parts of what makes us American. So we're going to go with one Hacksaw Jim Duggan from Glens Falls, New York. And we're going to really look at Hacksaw in his glory from the UWF / Mid-South territory run by another fine American cowboy, Bill Watts. And his opponent is a seemingly unbeatable 6'9", 500-pound Chicago street thug named the One Man Gang.
Now, in both of these cases, I was not aware of Jim Duggan until he came to the WWF, and and he would do the 3-point stance, and he yelled out "ho!" and he had the 2x4, and he wasn't nearly as goofy in the beginning as he would become as the years moved on in the WWF. And then when he got to WCW, especially in the Vince Russo years, he was way out there silly. Same thing with the One Man Gang. I know the One Man Gang in the UWF era was a killer. And when he first came in as the One Man Gang in the WWF, I remember him being one of my favorite heel wrestlers. I just thought he had a great look. I always said that it's given my struggles with weight, that if I ever became a professional wrestler, I would probably look like the One Man Gang. I used to love this guy, and then they done goofed him up by making him Akeem the African Dream. So give people a little bit of background here on both of these individuals before the WWF done circused them up.
So in the case of the gang was an ex-prison guard who obviously is a tremendously huge man, and was told, hey, you might want to be a wrestler someday. You can make a lot of money out of it, a guy with your size. And that was before they even knew that the gang was actually a really great athlete. And we'll see in this match, Gang, for a guy that size, can move and can bump around and animate himself like most big guys can't. He was really exceptional. And in the UWF, he, like you said, was presented as this killer, this guy that was just trouble for anybody, and really a monster, a nasty, mean heel who was going to be trouble for any babyface that came across him. Conversely, Duggan, who we're going to look at here and kind of is the feature guy for this spot, Duggan was a sanitized cartoon character in the WWF, and here in the Mid-South, where he really became Hacksaw, he was a blood and guts, fist-fighting, warrior who was not going to go down without a fight, who loved his country, and was just a romping, stomping, tough guy who wasn't going to take any crap from anybody, and really was actually a much more animated athlete in these days. In the WWF, he really kind of toned it down like most guys did, unfortunately. But I really love Hacksaw in the Mid-South. I think he was the best he ever was. And the gang gets to shine here, too. So I think we're going to have a lot of fun with this. I think it could be, if you only know Duggan or the gang from the WWE, I think you're in for a real treat. You're going to see a lot of stuff from these guys you wouldn't necessarily expect.
Before we play the video, I just want to ask you one question, Pat, and if you don't know the answer, that's fine, but you're sort of our historian here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network, so I'd be surprised if you didn't know. But one of the first comments on the YouTube page that we plucked this from was, why didn't they ever put the UWF belt on Duggan?
I'm sure they would have if Jim wasn't so close at that point to making the jump to the WWE. And that's kind of the story, unfortunately, with a lot of guys in the UWF territory when it became the UWF. It changed its name in 1986 to go national, and when it did that, it instantly launched itself as a competitor to the WWF and Jim Crockett Promotions. And Duggan signed with the WWF, I believe, in January of '87. The UWF Heavyweight Championship came into existence May 30th, 1986. So the plan was for Duggan to be the guy chasing the belt and then eventually culminate in a win. But, Jim gave his notice when they had put the belt on the gang, and the plan was Duggan was going to take the belt from the gang. But unfortunately, when Jim got the call from the McMahons to come up, he kind of didn't have that opportunity at any point, just like Ted DiBiase, who would go up. He did not have the opportunity to win that belt because he was led to the WWF, and eventually the guy who did take the belt off of the gang was not yet ready for the WWF, Big Bubba Rogers, who we came to best know as the Big Boss Man.
When did the gang make the crossover to the WWF?
The gang came over in mid '87. So literally, as UWF champion, is when he signed to go there and gave his notice to Bill, and that's when they kind of quickly had him drop the title to Bubba.
Oh, poor Bill Watts. So someday we'll have to discuss Bill Watts and the UWF and the Mid-South Wrestling, but today is not that day. Today we celebrate our Independence Day by looking at a Hacksaw Jim Duggan match versus the One Man Gang in the UWF on December 20th, 1986. You can go ahead, if you want to follow along on YouTube, you can go ahead and pull that match up. It's Championship One Man Gang versus Jim Duggan, UWF, December 20th, 1986. And I'm sure Jesse will also put this up on his YouTube page with the video embedded. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, so we're going to announce our participants here. Now, who is that's announcing? Do you know?
I don't remember that particular ring announcer's name. I'm not sure if we're at the Sam Houston Coliseum or perhaps it looks like the Sam Houston Coliseum to me.
God, almost 500 pounds the gang is. That is amazing.
That's a big hunk of slab of meat. And with the gang is his evil manager, that foreign oil tycoon, General Skandar Akbar.
Now, and here comes Hacksaw just romping and stomping, as you put it, down to ringside. Now, he doesn't have the 2x4 or the flag here, Pat. What gives?
At this point in time, there was a ban and a fine levied, on screen, fine levied, mind you, for anyone bringing foreign objects into play, because it got to a point where everybody was bringing something to the ring, whether it was Duggan with a 2x4, Bill Watts with a cattle prod, literal cattle prod that actually worked, Ted DiBiase with a loaded glove, so there was a ban on outside weapons.
Gotcha. And he wasn't really dragging the flag with him at this point, I would imagine.
Not necessarily a flag bearer unless it was to deal with the Russians.
Understood. All right, so we have the One Man Gang, who is your UWF champion, taking on Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And what was it? Skandar Akbar?
Yes.
He's taking a powder. He's outside. We are underway here. And the gang's motion to him is like, come at me, bro. Let's go. Let's do this. God, I would not want to mess with the One Man Gang in a dark alley. Jesus.
What do you mean you'd be afraid of a nearly 7 foot, 500-pound man with a mohawk and tattoos on his skull?
I just might, Rabbit. I just might. Now, Jim Duggan's not good. He just walks right up to him.
And just punched him in the mouth.
That's right. Oh, and he is moving and grooving there. Now, and boom, down goes the gang. Look at that bump.
For a big guy, Gang really was a superior athlete to be able to bump like that.
Yeah, he was right back up again. You know, if you'd have blinked, you'd have missed it. Duggan has him in the corner, and he's giving him the fist. Oh, that's some fun selling right there. He's already punch-drunk, the gang is.
And down he goes.
Oh, my goodness. Not what I would have Not what I would have expected from a guy who's going to give Hulk Hogan fits in about a year.
Yeah, but he's not in there with Hulk Hogan. He's in there with a street-fighting man from Glens Falls, New York.
This is an interestingly booked match because, you know, you've got... granted, it's a heel champion, but you got your heel champion in trouble right from the get-go. He has had no offense this entire match so far. This has just been Duggan... and again, much like our Vader Mankind match, not a lot of wrestling happening. It's a lot of punches and kicking. And is he biting him?
And now some biting.
Oh, my goodness.
And Gang's trying his damnedest to get away, but he's trapped in the ropes. And this doesn't bode well for him.
No. He's about to take one in the chin. He is wrapped up tight there. He's just letting it all hang out again on the ropes.
And like you were saying, this has been all Jim Duggan.
Yes, it has. And in a match like this, you would have thought, like, oh, maybe if he would have waylaid him with a chair or something, or the ring bell, and then the guy just could never get the motor going. That would have been one thing. But no, he stood face to face with them and punched them in the face, and it's been downhill ever since.
There was Bill Watts in a shoot interview said he loved Jim Duggan. He loved having him as his top guy. But if there was one criticism he could make about Duggan, it was that he had a tendency to what Watts had called guzzle opponents up. And now here it's a little bit different of a scenario, but Duggan would do this to a lot of guys he worked with, where he would just take control of the match and just whoop that ass.
Oh, jeez. It's just tossing chairs.
And Gang's hitting the table again.
Is it weird that I feel bad for the one-man gang?
Well, yeah, because he still has Skandar Akbar in his corner.
Well, Skandar's not really doing a lot for him. I mean, he's cheering him on right now, but it's not like he's...
Man.
He's a foreign man, sure. Okay, fine.
Mark, this is July 4th, and he's an evil foreign man.
Okay, you're right. I don't know what came over me, sir. Oh, and the gang is begging off. He's saying, please, Duggan, don't hit me again.
Putting his hands behind his back.
I am waiting for Gang to do something. There we go. There we go. He got the ref to sort of step between them, and he waylays Duggan, and now we got back and forth, fifths are flying. And boom! Elbow to the top of the head, a la Dusty Rhodes, without the shucking and jiving.
And Duggan, now it's Duggan's turn to take a little bit of a pounding. That headbutt just lays it down.
Oh, yeah, I would not want to take a headbutt from the Gang. And he covers him. Oh my God, he's like some hash browns at the Waffle House. He is smothered and covered.
The Gang's head is about the size of a T-Rex's too, so I can't imagine that's comfortable in any way. And now he's choking Duggan down on the ground. It's so funny that, a year from now, or actually, December 87, a year from now, both of these guys are in Vince Land, and double right hand, double knock. And Duggan is a much more sanitized version of the same character, but the Gang is a couple months away from being the African Dream and shucking, jiving, and dancing.
Yeah, one day you and I are going to have a conversation as to what in the hell were they thinking. But I'm sure they were thinking the one man gang wasn't nearly going to sell as many toys as Hakeem the African Dream. But that's a conversation for another day. Duggan is fighting back. Oh, he takes one in the face, and we might see a wrestling move here, Pat. Oh goodness gracious!
For pile driver.
Oh my goodness! Doesn't Duggan win a Royal Rumble at some point?
Well, interestingly enough, the Royal Rumble he wins. Can you guess the final man he eliminated?
The Gang.
Yes, indeed.
And I would not be surprised if they used that spot, because I did not see the Gang going over the rope the way he just did.
They didn't, but as impressive as that was, and Duggan comes back with the clothesline.
Oh, and here comes Skandar. He's whipping him. Oh, now he's begging off. He's like, hey. Why is that not a disqualification?
Yeah, America.
That's right. You beat him. Oh, Jesus. Who is that?
You got a run-in from Wild Bill Irwin. Also a member of Devastation Incorporated. But Duggan is undeterred. He's going to fight everybody. That's why Duggan is America.
Some would say that's a bad thing. And to those people, we say, has the ref just completely lost control over this thing? Is this still a match, or are we in schmozland at this point?
We're entering bunkhouse land at this point, because there are just bodies piling into the ring to either break this up or get a cheap shot in it Duggan. And there's a lot of job guys in this ring right now. There are some guys who have names. You can see in the camouflage pants. That's Fidel Sierra, the Cuban Assassin. I see Jeff Gaylord in some red track pants. Duggan up on the ropes. He wants some more. He's saying, bring it on. And
down with the elbow.
And I see more people coming in. I see Iceman Parsons running in from the side. And now we get real names coming into the ring. I see Dr. Death coming in to break stuff up.
Dr. Death when he was in shape and not being knocked out in a Brawl For All.
Yeah, this is 11 or 12 years prior to that happening. Dr. Death still had two knees that work. There's a young Sting. I see Terry Taylor. Chavo Guerrero Sr.
This is this. At some point, I would have just rung a bell and said, "Fuck it, we're having a battle royal."
Duggan basically is out for blood at this point. He's telling the announcer, "Get up, I'm going to go handle this." And Gary Young is trying to tell everybody, "Hey, Maniac with a chair."
Oh, he's just waylaying everybody. He don't give a hoot.
Sting is fleeing for his life. Gabo took a shot to the side of the head.
Please don't hit me. I have rafters I have to sit in for a year.
And this is fantastic.
Jim Duggan doesn't have a belt, but by golly, he's got a chair.
He's got a chair and he can stomp.
That's right.
And the crowd loved everything about this, mind you.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
A young Rick Steiner with a mustache. And Duggan's just going to take a seat.
The guy in the camo, the guy in the grayish kind of camo pants looked almost like a young Conrad.
Full tide on that. I remember when that podcast was good.
When it wasn't an hour and a half of advertisements?
Yeah, and when they actually talked about stuff I cared about.
Indeed.
And the gang's trying to get him some, and he's just eating kicks to the head from Hacksaw.
Where would they go from here, Pat? What was the next stop on the Hacksaw one-man gang tour, if there was one?
Unfortunately, this was really it for a while. It was about a month now. Duggan's working for the WWF.
Okay. So there was they never got to a blow-off because he was gone.
Yeah, unfortunately, Duggan gave his notice, and they went straight to Vince from there, and we didn't get the ending of Gang Duggan proper, although I guess we could kind of consider the ending of the first Royal Rumble maybe their final stand against each other.
Mm-hmm. Did Bill Watts have a plan as, like a cage or a... Why are you just randomly throwing chairs, sir?
Because this is July 4th, and he has the freedom to do so if he chooses. That's what makes this country great, Mark. No
doubt about it, Pat. Again, all right, so that's the end of our video. Good fun stuff. Very nice choice. A fine vintage, if you will. So, do you, just out of curiosity, do you know if they were planning a lumberjack match or a cage match? Because when you have that kind of a schmoz at the end to where there's interference and people getting in there, I think logically that would be where you would go next. And I'm curious, was that on the books and then he left, or who knows?
Cage matches were really seldom used in the UWF. There were some, but it wasn't common. Lumberjack matches were a fair staple of Bill Watts' booking, so I can't not think that they weren't coming back to Houston with a lumberjack match as the next choice. And potentially from there, maybe if that wasn't when they were going to anoint Jim Duggan, maybe a cage match after that. But there's no, surefire laid out plan that's ever been discussed openly, other than they were going to have Duggan be the guy that they eventually made their champion once they decided to take the belt, off of Gang. And Bill just had bad luck with top baby faces leaving him at critical times, because he had it happen to him with the Junkyard Dog, he had it happen to him with Duggan, and he had it happen to him after this with Ted DiBiase. Yeah,
Bill Watts needed a Ted Turner to be in his corner to, offer some benefits to these guys to keep them around. And it's a shame. I would have, thinking back to the, and granted, I grew up, in the Northeast with the WWF, but I think, had the UWF had more of a presence and had reached me, I think I would have enjoyed it back then. Who knows?
Well, you look at the guys who came out of there. It's all guys who we loved somewhere else later. It's Duggan, it's the Dog, it's DiBiase, the Gang, the Freebirds, Jake Roberts,
Dog.
Like all these tremendous stars, really, that Bill created, and if he didn't necessarily create them, he really groomed them to be who they became.
Mm-hmm. I remember I was a big fan for the brief moment in time that he was in the WWF of Natural Butch Reed, and I wish whatever the hell happened to him in the WWF, I wish things had worked out, because I loved his look, even with the crazy yellow hair and everything else. But that's
another Bill Watts guy.
Yep, exactly. That's why I brought him up. All right, Pat. This has been fun. This is a great way to cap off a July 4th here in 2018 in America. What do you got going on? When's your first? All I've seen is old guys, old games. When is your first Casual Heroes podcast coming along?
So the likelihood is Gavin and I are going to be doing a boxing show based around the current tournament that HBO has going on via their Twitter account, where they're matching up, in their opinion, the 32 greatest fighters to ever fight on HBO. And they're down to their final 8 participants going at it. So when
what weight class is this?
It's not it's a thing where they're kind of taking everybody and cherry picking from history, everybody who's fought on HBO, and they take who they deem are the 32 best to decide who was the greatest fighter ever on HBO.
Gotcha.
So they're down to their Elite 8, and after the dust settles and we get their final, we'll do a show discussing what we agree with, what we disagree with, where some of the things we think should have been done differently were, and why we each come to our result as to who we believe was the best ever on HBO.
All right. And you, of course, are one of the participants in the 401 Ground and Pound show. Why don't you give people a quick plug on that?
I am. You can hear every Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, or we record it every Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's shared through 411mania.com/MMA. It's shared through the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. It's shared through Robert Winfrey on social media. That's at WinfreyMMA on Twitter. Not spelled like Oprah, WINFREE. You know, like the free, as in land of the free, which we celebrate today. Also, I just recorded a special kind of extension of source material with Jesse Starcher last night, where we took a walkthrough of the very limited release Sega CD version of Prime, the Malibu Comics superhero. We talk a little bit about the Ultraverse, as it was called. We talk about the game itself and walk through, and there's a video attached along with it. And a good time is had by all. And there's a little bonus tag at the end where we bash LJN games and take a look at a wrestling game produced by LJN called Super WrestleMania for Sega Genesis.
All right, folks. Thank you, Pat. We'll do another one of these very soon, as I do enjoy them. Ladies and gentlemen, it's July 4th, as I said, and in a little while, Jesse Starcher and I are going to review last year's Kid Rock release, Sweet Southern Sugar, because there's no more American than Kid Rock. He is the American badass, and this is July 4th, so we're going to review one of his most recent albums right here on the Metal Hammer of Doom. Look for that very soon. It'll drop late tonight, early tomorrow morning. Until then, thank you, Pat. For everyone else, be well, be safe, and behave. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another TV Party Tonight Extra. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And joining me tonight is my color commentator for these TV Party Tonight Extras, where we look at old school wrestling matches. It's totally 80s, the punchy Pat Mullin. How you doing, sir?
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Stetson for men. So, Pat, what's on the menu for tonight? What are we looking at?
Well, we're looking at a behemoth battle here it was taped in 1990, released in 1991 on Super Tape 3 from Coliseum Home Video. This is the one and only Earthquake, John Tenta, against Fred/Tugboat/Typhoon/Shockmaster Ottman.
The whole Shockmaster thing occurred after the Typhoon Tugboat stuff, right? Like he gained notoriety and a degree of fame with Tugboat, and then more specifically Typhoon as part of the natural disasters. And then he goes over to WCW for the quote-unquote big money and proceeds to trip over a 2x4.
Yeah, Dusty Rhodes got him signed because they're brother-in-laws, and basically, Dusty to this day has alleged that David Crockett has sabotaged him by putting a board in the bottom of the wall that the Shockmaster was supposed to explode through. However, I don't necessarily think the Shockmaster would have been as big of a star even without tripping, because essentially you had a large, heavy-set man in a glitter-covered stormtrooper helmet with a sleeveless mink coat.
Yeah. So essentially, you have kind of a San Francisco-styled one-man gang in a bedazzled Stormtrooper helmet. I don't know if that was going to get over, but tripping over the 2x4 didn't help. But nevertheless, let's talk about this match. Now, I know why I wanted to do it. Two fat guys, two large individuals going at it on tape. That sounded just simply delightful to me. What is it about this match that you said, you know what, I should hit Mark to this and we should talk about it?
This one's cool because, yes, I mean, we all know Mark's love and propensity for the big fellas, but this has some unexpected athleticism in it. And for those who've never listened to a podcast with me ever, I am a huge fan of Earthquake. I think he was so great. I could literally watch the guy do pretty much anything, including his days as the Shark in WCW. But he was just awesome, and this is one of his more awesome efforts and one of the best visuals you will ever see in anything, period.
All right, well then, let's get right to it. Tonight our video is brought to us by the WWE Network, so we're going to have to sync this puppy up. All right, so 1, 2, 3, play. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, we got a shot of the crowd here. So where does this take place? Now, this wasn't a Superstars taping. This was taped, I guess, specifically for a Coliseum home video, Super Tape 3. Where in the world are they, San Diego? Carmen?
Well, this actually probably did take place during a marathon taping of either Superstars or Wrestling Challenge. They were notorious for doing like a 4 to 5 hour show in a location like Mullin, Illinois, Wheeling, West Virginia, all these off the beaten path kind of locations for Superstars and Challenge and the syndicated shows. And they'd also tape Coliseum video exclusives for those.
Can I tell you how, as a kid, how much I hated Tugboat? Look, I don't mean to offend anyone listening to this, but I just thought he was the gayest thing I've ever seen. When he cooled up quite a bit, and when I say cooled up, I mean like he got considerably cooler in my eyes as a child. Like 91, gosh, whoa, here we go. What is with the baby faces in the WWF in the late 80s, early 90s doing heel shit? He just attacked John Tenta from behind.
He idolized the Tugboat, idolized the Hulkster, and Quake takes a hip toss pretty early.
Yeah, big man got right off his feet.
But he idolized the Hulkster, and of course the Hulkster, as we well know, didn't always play by the rules.
I see, yes. Hulkster would often get even with the members of the Heenan family or Jimmy Hart's stable. After they threw him one beating after another, broke his ribs, he'd finally have enough and do some heelish things. But it was okay because he was getting revenge on all the nonsense they pulled. Gosh, I remember Tugboat being a lot fatter. I feel like he had a more distended belly, but he's looking. I mean, look, he's not exactly. I wouldn't call him fit, in the traditional sense. But I feel like he's been fatter. Like he's not looking too bad here.
No, he puts weight on as Typhoon, and maybe that was intentional to kind of look more imposing when he was standing next to Earthquake, who is a large, large man.
Mm-hmm.
They build him at 6'8" and 468 pounds. That's really probably not far off, as exaggerated as these things get.
Right. And we have a side headlock here. We're going to slow down the match. We're going to get ready for a spot, I'm sure. Let me take this time to say once again, a little bit of a hair pull. Like I said, I hated Tugboat. I hated this has got to be while Hogan's out and he's on the Superstars tapings talking about send your cards and letters to Hulk Hogan after Earthquake squashed him. This has got to be like pre-SummerSlam. And I remember, we talked about this on our Warrior show, how much I hated the fact that despite the fact that the Warrior had just gotten the belt at WrestleMania 6, they were spending all this TV time promoting an absentee Hulk Hogan, and the spokesperson for said absentee Hulk Hogan was this fat bastard over here, Tugboat.
And you could, he gave you the address to send your cards and letters to Get Well to Hulk, a P.O. box, and when you sent them, you got a little, I think it was like a 5x7 autographed picture of Hulk, and you could also get the Hulk Hogan Buddy Band, and Quake and Tugboat going nowhere on these shoulder tackles. Tugboat's holding his ground, and Quake is a little miffed, asking Jimmy Hart what to do, like he's going to have an answer.
What do you do?
Here we go.
Oh, look at that drop kick, Pat. My goodness. Earthquake getting right off his feet. That's not a short man, and he hit him right in the jaw with a drop kick. Outstanding. Very impressive from John Tenta, the Earthquake.
Just how cool is that visual? A guy legitimately over 400 pounds, getting up probably 6'3", 6'4" in the air to be able to nail Tugboat with a drop kick. And not like one of those cheapy ones. He turned sideways, got both feet fully up, nailed him.
No, that was very impressive. You know, you've said all along that, you know, John Tenta was deceptively agile for such a big man, and there's an example of it. So, I don't know if you had any thoughts on my absolute hatred for Tugboat until he turned into Typhoon and how horrible I thought this gimmick was. But do you have any insight as to where, you know, Fred Ottman comes to Connecticut and Vince McMahon looks at him and says, "Tugboat, pal, that's what I see for you." Tugboat. I mean, how did we get here?
Supposedly, Vince was a big fan of Popeye. I'm not even kidding. And he liked Popeye in his youth. And he wanted a character that was like kind of like a sailor. And he looked at, you know, Uncle Fred, as thus they would call him. And he was like, well, damn, he's big, pal. What do we do with him? Well, let's pair him up with Hulk and see what we can do. And they needed to give him a fan-friendly gimmick, so I've got it. And I guess he was hanging out with Pat Patterson and looked through Pat's album collection and saw one of the Village People's albums and said, we've got a cop, we've got a soldier, we're going to have an Indian soon, we need a sailor, damn it.
God. You know, when I listen to the Bruce Pritchard podcast and I hear Bruce tell those kinds of stories, or I hear those stories from you, I have to think, when he's not on a podcast, when he's just alone with his mind and his conscience, he has to look back on those moments and think, what in the hell were we doing?
Like, I'm sure there's part of it as Quake drops a second elbow on the chest of Tugboat, who's in desperate trouble here, and he just looks at it and he's like, yeah, we made money. What the hell?
Yep. Despite all odds, this shit actually works. Yeah. So let me
go fleece somebody out of another mortgage.
So the momentum has turned on dear old Tugboat here as John Tenta has taken control of the match. Throws him into the ropes. Oh, we're doing this spot again. Okay, so this spot, for those of you who are unable to follow along on the video, Earthquake threw him into the ropes. They went belly to belly, and then they went nowhere. This is, again, the same spot they did earlier. Earthquake hit the ropes again. This time he takes a clothesline from dear old Tugboat. Tugboat just comes in with the splash, and now Jimmy Hart's trying to earn his keep. He's interfering.
Tugboat was using the splash for a finish at the time, so that could have very easily been the end had Jimmy not put himself in harm's way.
Oh, Jimmy Hart's trying to save his man there. Oh, look at that. Speaking of drop kicks.
Another fat man drop kick. It's less impressive than Earthquake's, but he got up there at least, and he made contact with the chest. It wasn't Eric Watts drop kicking somebody in the leg when he meant to hit him in the chin. And Quake does the Andre rope tie spot, where his arms are crucifixed in the ropes, and Jimmy Hart, trying to come in for the save, is held up, but Dino Bravo to the rescue.
Really? We needed Dino Bravo here? What?
Nope.
Now, I mean,
and he's the least mobile guy in the ring.
Here's what I don't understand about this finish. You could have easily put John Tenta, Earthquake, over Tugboat, and you don't lose a thing. Here he goes. He's here. Here come the tremors. Here come the tremors. Now here comes the Quake. Here we go. Oh, they got out of the way. Whoa. Now, they not only do a shit finish, but then they rob everyone of the Earthquake splash. Oh, my goodness. And Tugboat's has lost his mind. He's coming in with a chair. Well,
you know, we can criticize the finish, but you got to remember, you have to keep Earthquake hot because we're not at SummerSlam yet.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to keep Tugboat hot for the eventual turn they were planning, and making him Sheik Tugboat of Iraq.
which they don't do, right? Or it gets aborted very quickly, and then he becomes Typhoon.
It gets aborted once they're able to sign Sergeant Slaughter.
And that brings us to the end of our match, and we're back to Sean Mooney in a hat here. That was fun, Pat. We definitely need to get some more Earthquake on this show. As he was, I enjoyed him as a kid. I thought that he was a great monster heel. I stand by my argument that it should have been Earthquake and Warrior at SummerSlam instead of Hogan and Earthquake, but, c'est la vie.
Damn it, if they take him away, they'll miss him. And he must pose, pal.
Yeah, they never truly committed to the Warrior, did they? All right, Pat, what's going on with you and the Casual Heroes? You guys ever going to record anything anytime soon?
There was unfortunately an aborted attempt at recording this very day because Jed is on a mini vacation, so we were not able to put the whole crew together. Likelihood is the first show will be recorded next week.
Now, are you going back to doing the traditional Casual Heroes wrestling show where Chris half-heartedly reads the news and you guys react to it, or are you doing something different?
That seems to be what everybody wants us to do, so we're going to give the people what they want to start with. Whether it stays that way, we can't tell you, because we don't know. But that's at least where we're going to start off with things, and we'll build from there and play around with it some.
All right. My last question, what did you think of Ronda Rousey's Legion of Doom makeup on SummerSlam?
I thought she looked like Draws.
See, that's what I was going for. Thanks for hitting that ball for me as I threw you a softball. Jesus Christ.
Draws, like worse than Draws in the wheelchair.
Yeah, I think they overdid it. Look, I'm all for the beating she threw on Alexa Bliss. I'm all for her, being that, Ken Shamrock, Dan Severn, bully in the ring, MMA type. I'm not necessarily into her promoting the power and paint look. My goodness. Oh, a little too much eyeshadow for me, sir. A little too much eyeshadow.
We're criticizing her paint, but as we leave this video playing, we've got 6 guys with faces painted.
Oh, you know what? I stopped it. Which, how far into the tape are you?
Literally right after that match, you got the Warrior and the Legion of Doom against all 3 members of Demolition.
Oh, yes, look at that. Speaking of power and paint. All right, Pat, we're going to close it out here. When are you coming back on the Radulich Broadcasting Network? Do we have you lined up for any shows?
At the moment, no. The last one I did was with Jesse Starcher for Source Material, where we covered Thor the Reigning and its follow-up.
Okay. Yeah, we've got Legion, Cloak and Dagger, Predator, Iron Fist, Ozark. None of those are or Insatiable, and again, none of those tickle your fancy.
That's not necessarily true, but there's already booking for there, so I'm fine with it.
And we got Venom, Hannibal, Halloween. So, yeah, you'll have
those. I'm not going to see any of.
Do you follow the Arrowverse shows?
I used to. I kind of tuned out when the entire cast and bit players of The Flash learned Barry's secret identity.
Mm-hmm.
It got a little bit much for me at that point, and the Arrow is okay, I guess, but whenever I watch it, I realize it's just Batman.
I was asking because they finally announced the dates for the new Arrowverse crossover with Batwoman, in case you were interested in that.
Now, are they still going through with the girl who's actually gay but not gay enough to play Batwoman?
Yes, they're still casting not gay enough for Hollywood Ruby Rose.
Right, because in order to play a part, you have to actually be the part
and
eliminate the acting part of it.
Yep. Charlize Theron was an abused woman, as we all know. That's why she could play that part in Monster. And, it just goes on from there. All right, well, we'll figure it out, and we'll get you on for something sometime soon. You'll have to hit me up with another match in between there. So for Mr. Pat Mullin of the Casual Heroes and sometimes contributor here to the Radulich Broadcasting Network, thank you for joining us for this TV Party Tonight Extra. We'll talk to you soon. Be well, be safe, and behave. Hello, and welcome to a TV Party Tonight Extra. I'm back here with my good friend, the punchy pugilist, Pat Mullin. How you doing, Pat?
I'm excellent to outstanding, Mark. How are you?
I couldn't be better. Tonight, of course, Pat and I like to take a look at wrestling matches of yore, some hidden gems that you can find on the YouTube machine. Pat, what's on the agenda for tonight? What's on the menu? What are we looking at?
Baby, what we got here is very kabuki-ish, and what's going to be seen is the hottest one angle on a TV show that you ever seen, baby. It involved the heavyweight championship of the world, the most prized possession that one could have in this baby.
Let me guess. This is Hercules Hernandez versus the Ultimate Warrior.
Baby, I'm asking for chicken salad, you give me chicken shit.
Oh, nuts. All right, so you sent me here NWA World Champion Ric Flair versus Ted DiBiase. Now, give me some background here. What exactly is this? Where did it come from? How long ago was it?
We are in our old stomping grounds of the Mid-South region in 1985. And basically what's going on here is Ted DiBiase is the North American Heavyweight Champion, which is the top title in Mid-South. And what happens is that entitles the holder of that belt to get a shot at the world champion whenever the world champion comes into the territory. So at this time, Ric Flair holds the NWA Championship. He is booked in the Mid-South territory. Ergo, DiBiase is the number one contender to the championship and earns a shot. DiBiase is the most hated heel in the territory, having aligned himself with the likes in the past of Skandar Akbar, turned on his friends like the Junkyard Dog, using a loaded glove to cheat and win matches. He's basically just as bad as it gets. But coming into the territory is maybe the top heel in all of wrestling, Nature Boy Ric Flair. And so you got the heel NWA World Heavyweight Champion ready to go against the heel North American Champion, which doesn't exactly have the people all that happy because no matter what, somebody they don't like is going to be the heavyweight champion of the world. But it takes a hard left turn.
Okay, I'm anxious to see what this is. Now, for our friends at home who may only be familiar with Ted DiBiase, the WWF years, this is not the $1 Million Man, right? This is UWF Ted DiBiase, which is what kind of Ted DiBiase?
This is maybe the best Ted DiBiase. This was a guy who had been the leader of the Rat Pack. Again, just the top heel without the gimmick of the $1 Million Man. He's this really cunning, calculated, vicious, well-schooled heel who was arguably the best performer in all of wrestling at the time.
So he's kind of Kevin Sullivan without the Oompa Loompa body.
Better.
Better. Okay. Better than Kevin Sullivan without the Oompa Loompa body. Here we go, folks. If you're watching at home, this is a YouTube video entitled NWA World Champion Ric Flair versus Ted DiBiase. This is from Universal Wrestling Federation, good old Cowboy Bill Watts' territory. So here we go. So tell me about the Japanese writing on the screen here. What's going on?
This is from a Japanese dub tape, this segment.
Okay.
Which was not uncommon in tape trading days. A lot of guys got their stuff from Japanese collectors and would trade American tapes to Japan. Some territories were pirated to Japan because they were read about and featured, so prominently in the U.S. that they wanted to see them.
Strange, you in your Dusty impression, you use the word kabuki-ish, and that's only because, Dusty would say kabuki-ish. But I will tell you, I don't know of a better way to describe a heel versus heel main event. It's sort of bizarre. Like, I get the fact that Ted DiBiase is holding a belt, but how does heel versus heel pack him into your local arena?
Well, it's the draw of the World Heavyweight Championship. Not even necessarily the guy who's carrying it. But especially in the Mid-South, when you only got the champion maybe once or twice a year, it was a big deal.
What's happening here?
What we're seeing here is as the match was about to happen, Dick Murdoch, who had held the North American Championship more times than anyone in history, came out and told DiBiase it was going to be his job to take care of Flair. Good Lord, DiBiase.
Oh, God.
To the post. And he just ate that post.
Yeah, Dick Murdoch just... Go ahead.
Murdoch basically said to DiBiase, I broke you in, so you're not ready for Flair yet. Let me take care of Flair. DiBiase said, all due respect. Oh, good Lord. DiBiase said, you know what? This is my shot. I've earned it, so you head to the back. Murdoch responded by punching him down in the face. And Ted DiBiase is bleeding all over. Like, this is a 5-alarm blade job, folks.
Yeah, I was going to say, when we were talking over each other, he ate that pole for breakfast. It's something awful. And he's laid out there in a puddle of his own blood. Who's that, Hacksaw, that came to his rescue?
That's Dr. Death, Steve Williams.
Okay.
And Ric Flair now talking about how since, and who got in a cheap shot, by the way, of course, as a good heel should. He's talking about how since DiBiase doesn't look like he's ready to wrestle, Ric Flair's going home, ladies and gentlemen. And now we're going to see a segment from the Cowboy.
My goodness, what do you got me watching here? This is all kinds of dramatic. I thought
this whole thing is the genius of Bill Watts at work.
I thought, when you say Cowboy Bill Watts, I think, we're going to have, some good, hard-hitting, heavy machinery, just because, big old hosses whacking each other with forearms. You got drama here that's like the WWE.
Yeah, and again, you're talking the genius of the Cowboy. This is all in the same show, mind you. This is all happening concurrently. What Bill Watts is doing is letting everybody know that Ted DiBiase, despite the injury, despite being told by doctors he should not be wrestling because it's his shot at the heavyweight championship of the world, he is going to wrestle against doctor's orders. They're going to allow it. And this is how good Bill was at presentation. He's also telling the folks at home that they may not want to let their children watch because of how graphic this can potentially get due to the cut that DiBiase has suffered.
I feel like we're in for a giant bloodbath. This is going to be one of those wrestling matches where just everybody is soaked in blood.
I mean, but again, Bill Watts was a master of presenting this as a legitimate sport. Mm-hmm. And doing little things like this were what made him so good at it. Like, at what point else would you ever tell people deliberately not to let people watch something? But there he goes. He's doing it here.
Because when you tell people not to do something, they're going to want to do it doubly more.
Perfect reverse psychology.
And at some point, folks, Pat and I are going to present to you a full TV party tonight, the history of the UWF. We just haven't figured out when we're going to do that yet. It's one I got to get a little bit more prepared for. But we do have that in the works right here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. And so we're back ringside, and Flair is pacing around. He's got the belt on, and I guess we are waiting for Ted DiBiase to reappear, probably with a huge bandage on his head, I would imagine.
You would be correct, and there it is.
Hell yeah, looking like a Civil War patient.
And he's already bleeding profusely through the bandage.
Oh, double axe handle, and here we go. Now, I know this is going to be one of those weird things. You're like, being a little nitpicky, but I would have never have allowed them to wear the same color tights.
That makes sense.
It's just there are. I mean, I know that Vince McMahon and the WWE get crapped on for being a little bit more sizzle than steak, but color is a thing, and I hate the fact that they're both wearing the same tights. It makes it feel like a tag team that's just broken up.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And there you see DiBiase finally gets back into it after eating about 18 chops. I know that's surprising that we saw that many chops this early in a Ric Flair match.
And this is what Flair does. He bumps for you like nobody's business. He's taking chops now. Ted DiBiase drops the fist down on Flair, and Flair's begging off. And see, this is what we know from Ric Flair. Now he doesn't have the advantage. He's begging off. He's running away. Ted DiBiase's putting the boots to him.
And then he catches a thumb to the eye.
Yes, he does. Flair trying to slow the pace down. More chops.
DiBiase's fist drop was a thing of beauty. He did that like nobody else.
All right, we're going for a suplex here, and Ted DiBiase is blocking it. See, you and I talked about on the All In review about how it should look like a struggle. You see that there. Little things like not letting them do a suplex, making him, like if this was, in a real wrestling match, you would try something, the guy, your opponent would try to stop you, and you would have to adjust, which is what we just saw there with that spot.
That Carl Fergie stepping in and Flair having him set for where he wanted to drop a knee but couldn't do it because Carl Fergie was in the way, so he shoved Carl Fergie, and now he's going to work in another way. It's a back suplex on DiBiase, and the compression bandage is just basically completely off now. It's sticking to his hair a little bit, but it is in no way stopping blood.
I wouldn't be. No, he's just going to toss to the side. I was going to say, I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if he took the bandage off and shoved it down DiBiase's throat. Such is the evilness of Ric Flair. Ted DiBiase does not. Just think, Ted. In a few short years, you'll be in the WWE, and your life will be so much easier. You'll never see home again, but you won't be bleeding profusely.
No more 5-alarm blade jobs. And Dr. Death now out for moral support. And you can't hear it from what we're broadcasting, but the crowd is savagely behind Ted DiBiase at this point.
Oh, sure.
They're seeing a guy who, despite all this, still wants to go out and fight. And there is Flair taking the Flair buckle bump.
Yes. From the school of ridiculous bumps, there's the buckle bump.
And DiBiase is just bleeding profusely. This is one of the 4 or 5 worst blade jobs I've ever seen, to be honest.
Did this come to be known as the hepatitis on a pole match?
It came close. He's got a cover after the suplex, but Flair is out. And Dr. Death is also wearing red, so maybe this was planned.
Everyone wear the same tights. We don't want to show differentiation. Confuse the audience.
On Wednesdays, we wear pink, folks.
There's an elbow by Flair. Flair's going to fire Ted DiBiase into the ropes. Look at that. He's going to stop him. It looks like... I don't even know what to call that.
He looked like an abdominal stretch that he couldn't hook because... And I'm going to chalk that up to blood loss. That DiBiase couldn't hook it and kind of took a spill, but then turned it into a cradle that he couldn't capitalize on.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, it looked kind of sloppy and it looked ugly. On the other hand, you could absolutely see that being realistic because the man has lost, most of his blood to the ether. Like,
he can barely stand. He has to stumble a little bit.
It would make sense after taking a beating like this that he would be groggy and not be as, crisp and pure. See, this is what we're talking about. 20 minutes into a match like this, you shouldn't be hitting things picture perfect.
No, it's got to look like a fight, like a struggle. And so now DiBiase's pretty much pouring everything he's got into these chops in the corner against Flair, giving him a taste of his own medicine. And look at that, just little things like where Ted just staggered up on the ropes to hold himself up are what really make a real professional. And that's why Ted's so good. And Flair takes his silly, ridiculous bumps to kill believability for a minute. God, I hate Ric Flair.
Now, I feel like he took that bump that way. One, because that's just what he does, but also to give Ted a minute to catch his breath.
Could very well be, because he definitely needs it. He's really bleeding. He's still bleeding. Yeah,
he's getting a lot of blood in Rick's hair now. Rick's going to get that pink hair job by the end of this, like he does. Oh,
hey, Mark, Flair's going to the top rope.
Oh, look at that!
I wonder what's going to happen.
Here we go. There it is. There it is.
Off. I never would have thought that would have happened.
No, there aren't several spots in a Ric Flair match you can count on. Not at all.
No. And DiBiase missed an elbow, though, too slow to capitalize because of the blood loss. Job, vicious job.
And he's got him in the side headlock, fires him off, and scoop slam. Oh, picture perfect. This is how you make a heel a babyface, ladies and gentlemen. He is fighting from underneath after a dastardly attack by one Dick Murdoch.
He could not get the cover, and unfortunately, that may have cost him the heavyweight championship of the world. Oh, look at Chop.
Now, Ted's belt's not on the line in this one. It's just Rick's, correct?
Correct. So he gets a shin breaker, and is he going to put his own version on? Yep. Now, in the Mid-South, Ted DiBiase was known as the master of the figure four.
So is it weird that he attacked the one leg and then the figure four attacks the other leg?
Well, the straight leg is the leg in the figure four that's got the compression on it.
Okay.
Which a lot of people don't know. I mean, it hurts both legs regardless. If you've ever really put someone in figure four, it hurts.
I've been in and put people in a figure four. Yeah, it's like a legit move.
Yeah. But most of the pressure is on that straight leg.
Okay. Well, he didn't have it very long because Flair, the veteran here, wily veteran, reached for the ropes, immediately had it broken off, and now we see Ted just dead on the outside.
Yeah, kicked right over the top rope.
Not illegal at this point. Not like it would be later years when Bill Watts would take over.
Not an intentional throw over the top rope. And DiBiase, unfortunately, cannot beat the count back in. Cannot even stand up.
And that's one way to end your match. Yeah, I'm okay with this. You know,
and here's how you really make him a baby face.
Oh, goodness. Dick Murdoch, leave him alone. Haven't you done enough?
Murdoch is out for seconds, and he is laying those right hands in.
Jeez. Ted DiBiase doesn't know which way is up. You know, it's so funny because again, as a northern WWE, guy born in the late '70s and grew up an '80s wrestling fan, I never.
Watch this.
Gonna be running. He's gonna dump him on his head, isn't he? Yup. Boom.
Dick Murdoch, the master of the brain buster, and that was a clean brain buster on the floor, and he just slapped Pee Wee Anderson.
You never saw Ted this way. Ted, first of all, he never had these kinds of vicious matches in the WWE that I can recall. He had some pretty clean... Oh, look, a Defenders, an Atari 2600 commercial. He always had these very clean matches with guys like Savage and Hogan, and then they relied so much on his gimmick to get him over. So it's such a different look for Ted DiBiase to be in such a savage match, where he's really manning it up. Like, he looks like a serious ass kicker. And you just didn't get that, I think, from the WWE when he was there as the $1 Million Man. You could see him as a worker. You saw him as a villainous, over the top character, but not the sort of manly man bleeding all over the place, tough as leather type of wrestler.
No, absolutely not. And him and Jim Duggan are probably the two biggest examples of guys who, when they left Mid-South and came to the WWE, toned it down significantly in terms of what they did. They were still, in a lot of ways, the characters they were, but more cartoony, as the term would go, in one respect.
I got to imagine Vince sat him down and said, looked at what they were doing and said, you don't have to do all that. Watch as the magic of Disney takes you farther than you'll ever have to go by bleeding all over the place and getting dumped on your head on a concrete floor.
Yeah, and I remember specifically Duggan's told the story that it was Hogan who went to Duggan because Duggan was still using what he called the spear for a finish, which was essentially a flying headbutt. And Hogan told him, like, hey, you don't have to do that here. Like, tone it down.
Right. Again, let the magic of Disney take you to untold places, and boy, did they ever. We have a lot of drama here now as they've got him on a stretcher, they've got him in a neck brace. Poor Ted. And this was this was just an average taping, huh? Just another day in the UWF.
But again, the magic of Bill turning the most hated heel in the company into their top babyface in the span of one TV show.
Now, how long was his run as a top babyface in the company before he finally said so long and thanks for all the fish?
It lasted for about 2 years.
Oh, good for Ted.
Yeah, he would turn he would turn face here in mid-'85, and that would last basically until the end of his run in mid-'87 when he made the jump over to Vince. And even when he first jumped over to Vince, they introduced him in Houston, where Mid-South had been running until they brokered the deal that Vince was going to be the new promoter in Houston. And that's where they started Ted, because the audience was so familiar with him. And what happened was they had him there. He wrestled the one-man gang in his debut, familiar opponent, obviously. And then they turned him heel again real quick there by turning on another familiar Mid-South face, Sam Houston, in a tag team match. So once they established him as a heel in Houston to avoid him getting those, hometown crowds who still liked him because they remembered him as Mid-South babyface, which was really smart booking on their hand, that's when he turned into the $1 Million Man.
You know what's funny? As I think back, I feel like, and I know I'm wrong about this. You just explained why I'd be wrong about this, but I always felt like the $1 Million Man was right there at the beginning. But you're absolutely right. When the Rock and Wrestling thing happens, your big heels are Orndorff and Piper.
Yeah, Ted didn't come in until '87, but it speaks volumes about what a great character that was and how well he did it, that he's always one of those guys who is remembered.
So he's got, I guess he comes in around WrestleMania 3, right?
He comes in after WrestleMania 3.
Okay.
Duggan came in first, believe it or not, of the two, and what happened was Duggan got fired for driving on the turnpike with the Sheik and some weed and some beer and some cocaine. And what happened was Duggan got fired. After Duggan was fired, DiBiase came in summer '87, and they did this very short babyface run in Houston with him. And after they turned him heel, they got Duggan back in late summer, early fall of '87, based on a match he had with DiBiase at.
I would say no.
Excuse me. At the Paul Bosch retirement show, where they allowed them to work together, and because of the strength of the match, Duggan was rehired.
So he must come in and almost instantly be revolving around the main event scene, because it's that February of '88 that they do the main event, and he's paying Andre the Giant to for the belt that he got off of Hogan, that leads into WrestleMania 4. And I think that's why my memory of him is like, oh, he has to have been there for longer, but you're right, it's '87, '88 that things are really starting in earnest. And he's right there in the midst of things with Hogan and Andre, who prior to that, up to that point, it was really Hogan. First it's Hogan, Piper, Orndorff. It's that trio that kind of get things rolling. And then it's, for about a year or two, it's Hogan versus the Heenan family. And that transitions into Andre, which then brings in Ted DiBiase, and we're off into sort of the golden age of WWF wrestling. What a trip down memory lane. All right, Pat, thank you for another enjoyable commentary over an old match. I enjoy these UWF matches. We'll have to keep doing them. Hey, you did a podcast. Why don't you tell people about it?
Yeah, so the Casual Heroes are officially back in podcasting as we used to. We recorded our first show this past week. It is now available on the Casual Heroes YouTube channel, so go ahead and check that out. You can find us on YouTube at the Casual Heroes. We did our first WrestleCast in 2 years, roughly. So we talk All In, we talk Ring of Honor, New Japan selling out Madison Square Garden. We do a This Day in Wrestling History. We do, and we do a list that Jed and I get brain aneurysms.
That truly was an atrocious list.
Yeah, it's one of the worst lists we've ever come up with, we found. And keep in mind, we had no knowledge of this list beforehand, so our reactions are genuine when we read this. And keep in mind, just to tease you all guys, it's the 20 greatest technical wrestlers of all time, and Ricky Steamboat was number 20.
Yeah, I was like, and where was Ricky Steamboat? The one thing I disagreed with you guys is I didn't understand what your issue with Kurt Angle was as a technical wrestler, but I don't want to rehash that debate. But you guys were going on for quite some time about how either he doesn't deserve high marks as a technical wrestler or didn't deserve to be that high on the list. And I was like, that seemed like crazy talk to me.
Yeah, well, no. Well, mainly what it is Kurt's style is not one that's necessarily a technical style so much as he throws a lot of suplexes and uses basically one submission hold. He's not necessarily really wrestling as much as you would assume. Technical wrestling is more when you see guys who really rely 90% of their offense on hold exchanges. Guys like, Jed mentioned Nick Bockwinkel. I said Dory Funk and, Vern Gagne. Billy Robinson is probably the technician of technicians. Bob Backlund would be another example. So Kurt's not really in that vein so much.
I think, you know what it is? Because it was a similar conversation about Owen Hart. And I think, one of my favorite Owen Hart matches is the one in Germany for the inaugural European title against Bulldog, which was a highly technical move-for-move, exchange of a match. Same thing with WrestleMania 17 with Benoit and Angle. And I think because of those two matches, I tend to both of them were highly technical, and I think because of that, I make the guys in the match are highly technical. And I'm like, and I know that's not the case because Bulldog is about as technical a wrestler as I am. And we've already made the argument about the other three guys in the podcast, which you should go listen to on the Genzo Side TV YouTube channel, where you'll find the Casual Hero videos, old guys and old games, and the Casual Heroes podcast.
It's also fun to watch old guys, old games, because Gavin's not good at those games anymore.
All right. If you're looking for stuff here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, we got a source material for Barbed Wire, Don't Call Her Babe. We've tonight, after when you're done downloading this, you'll in a few short hours you'll find an on trial for Barbed Wire, the Pamela Anderson award-winning movie. Award-winning, okay?
Yeah, Razzie Award-winning.
It's still an award. And then tomorrow, we'll be reviewing Bullet for My Valentine, Gravity. So go ahead and check all those out and all the great shows that we have here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. If you enjoy the wrestling talk, Pat and I actually did a review of All In right after it ended, and we explained why the Young Bucks are just terrible. So with that said, I want to thank you again, Pat. This has been a TV Party Tonight Extra. Be well, be safe, and behave.